This is going to be a how-to video on how to clean a second-story roof gutter without a ladder. I'll have a part list in the description. Okay, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the wand apart on my pressure washer. Now I have a Ryobi gas-powered pressure washer where this comes apart. Okay, we're going to use that wand piece in a minute here. Okay, next I'm going to connect a dual nozzle gutter cleaning device with a quick connect. And what I'm using now is called a Mr. Long Arm Bulb Changer. This has an 8 to 23 foot extension. I would recommend that brand for the extension. Depending on the length of your roof, you may be able to get away with a shorter rod, or you could go with some kind of painter's pole or some other type of pole, but I do really recommend that Mr. Long Arm extension. Now what I use is some 18-inch gear ties to secure this, and you'll see in a moment too, I also use some electrical tape. This does have some pressure, so you want to get this on fairly decently. That way when you're using it, it doesn't twist around. Now with that extension pole that I was talking about, I have multiple other uses for that. So, I did go with what I thought was a pretty good pole. It's about $88 on Amazon. You can probably get it at Lowe's or Home Depot for cheaper possibly. Okay, what I'm going to start doing here next is I'm going to add an additional 25 feet of 1/4-inch pressure washer hose. And I'm going to tie that into the wand that we took off the gun in the beginning here. The links that I do have in the description for some of these things aren't the exact devices that I was using. I put this together for around 150 bucks minus the pressure washer. A lot of the stuff I did get at Lowe's or Home Depot, I think I got the gutter cleaning nozzle on Amazon. Okay, so like I was talking about, you want to take a little bit of electrical tape. I like electrical tape because it holds pretty good when you get a few wraps. And then when you take it back off, it comes off nice and clean. Okay, so I now have that extra 25 feet of hose attached to the end of the wand that we took off. I'm now going to tie it back into the gun end. I'm just going to twist that onto the threaded piece here. Check your pressure washer out. It may connect differently. I've had a few pressure washers over the years. I've had some electric ones where the gun doesn't have a screw on like this. So if you don't have a screw on portion like that, you're going to either have to get a different wand or go a different route. Okay, next what I'm going to do, for the first part of this, I'm just going to demonstrate on a lower roof. So I don't have this extended out very far at all. Typically for that roof, I probably wouldn't use this, to be honest with you. It's just low enough that, in all honesty, I probably would just crawl out one of my windows onto that roof and clean it out, or use a step ladder. But it just depends on your roof heights and what you want to do. I just find it easier usually to just kind of grab the stuff by hand at that point. I feel pretty comfortable on that roof. Okay, what I'm doing now is I'm using another one of the gear ties to secure the actual spray gun to the pole. Now what I recommend is giving yourself about a foot or so from the end of the pole to where that nozzle is. That way when you're using the gun, when you're actually cleaning the gutters, you'll want to do some twisting motions as you go. And having that little bit of extension on the end is, I think, useful. I wouldn't recommend twisting the actual spray handle for the pressure washer itself. Just twist the pole. And just like before, I'm just putting a couple wraps of electrical tape on this as well, just to really hold it down tight. in theory, if you have a second person, it's even easier to just not even actually attach this to the pole, and then that second person can run the gun. In this video, I'm doing this all by myself. I've done it by myself before, and I've also done it with a helper. Like I said, the helper definitely makes things a little bit easier. Okay, and then the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm just going to take all the extra slack, and I'm going to tie that down and loop it up just so it's not in my way. I'll probably speed the video up here, and then we'll come back. Okay, so that's the setup. As you can see, I've gear tied and electrical taped the one to the top. Use some gear ties to keep the excess. And I have the bottom gear tied and electrical taped. Like I said, this is an extended pole. This one does 8 to 23 foot. It's made by Mr. Longarm. I highly recommend this pole if you're doing a second story roof. It's a few extra bucks, but it's worth it. Okay, I'm going to start on this lower roof first. It's probably just easier to see what I'm doing. Right now I'm just starting the pressure washer up. I'm making sure to run water through it as I start it up. And right now I'm just checking the flow, which I did have one minor issue. I was still able to use everything. I brought the hose and the pressure washer in to my basement for the winter because it does freeze here. The one thing that I did leave out of my shed was that gutter nozzle, and I did have one small hairline crack from where that froze. So I was still able to use it, but it did have a minor crack. Alright, I'm just going to show you how this works real quick. Now, I would recommend getting the gutter nozzle that does have the rotating head, as you can see there. Alright, so what makes this nice is that gutter nozzle will sit right in the gutter, and when you're doing the higher roof, that's important because that takes a lot of the weight off. Now, what I like to do is start right in the middle of the gutter and just work it both ways slowly. And then as I'm working it, I'm also kind of twisting it up and down and kind of rotate those nozzles back and forth. And I just work between each gutter hanger strap, and then when I move to the next gutter hanger, I turn the pressure washer off at the gun, put it in, then start it again. And basically I just work my way back and forth down the whole gutter. When I get to where the downspout is, you'll see that I take some time and I blast all of that loose stuff out, and then once I get all of that out, I take the nozzle itself and I rotate it so that one end of the nozzle goes down into the downspout, and then I spray down into there. I'd also like to note real quick, so the only reason that I do have a ladder out is mainly just for filming purposes. I wanted to get a couple shots before and after for you. Like I said, as advertised in the video, if you do this method, you don't need a ladder. And at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about some steps that I do that I didn't get on camera, but just for basically assuring that the gutter and the downspouts are clearly running. So as I work my way down to the end, I want to talk about a few orders of operation here. Planning this out will definitely save you from cleaning up the mess twice. So in my situation, the front and the back of my house have low roofs, and my upper downspouts both run into both of those roofs. So what I'm doing now is I'm cleaning the bottom roof first because it's pretty caked up, and that way whenever I do get to the upper roof and I'm blowing everything out, I have a nice clean flow down into this roof and then down to my downspout off my house. Okay, you're going to see here in a moment, I'm going to get down to the end, right about where the downspout is. And what I've done now is I've rotated that nozzle and pointed it down into that downspout, and I'm just working it kind of back and forth at different angles. And at the same time, you can't hear it in the video, but I'm also watching my the end of my downspout and trying to listen as well for just basically clear flow. So normally I get it a few different times, and pretty much I'll work my way back up the gutter here in a second, and then off camera, once I was ready to move on to the next roof, I did come back one last time and spray down that downspout just to make sure it was free. Okay, I'm going to cut a little bit out here or speed it up, but so what I'm doing now, so I've already made my initial pass, and basically I'm just coming back through, one last time for the moment, and just trying to get the last of everything that I can. Now, at the end of this, off camera, I'll talk about some other steps that I do that aren't involving the pressure washer, basically. Okay, this is going to be a good shot of what the end or corner would look like. And at any of the ends or the corners, I really kind of just let this thing sit there and spray, and I try to work it back and forth. This is where everything's going to jam up on you as far as debris. So just take your time, and sometimes kind of going closer like I am here, and then even further back kind of gives you some different, spray angles. I think working closer really eats away at some of the blockage, and then going back further gives you kind of like a wider spray with that rotating nozzle head. Okay, hopefully you can see that small picture in the corner of it. That was the before. So this gutter was absolutely clogged, when I started. As you can see now, it's pretty clear. Alright, so what I've done here now is I've taken that gutter attachment off, and I've put my low pressure, like soap rinse nozzle for my pressure washer on. And this would probably be the absolute last step of the process. This is kind of out of order right now, just kind of demonstrating a way of cleaning, the final clean. Truth be told, you don't even need the pressure washer for this. What I actually ended up doing with the larger part of the roof was my regular hose and just garden nozzle was able to reach high enough to clean the underneath. Before even doing this step though, you want to take your hose with your regular nozzle and spray it up on your roof, and make sure you get all that bulk stuff that's left, down. And you kind of got to listen to your gutter and your downspout, and then watch wherever you can, watch your end of your downspout out. And just keep doing it, keep working back and forth on the roof, and you'll get some clumps of stuff that, that have been built up and will eventually wash through, and then you'll get good flow. Okay, now you're gonna see me do my higher roof. Now this is where I think buying this Mr. Longarm pole, with it being a good product, comes in handy, because I have this thing fully extended out. There is a half decent amount of weight on that pole. And this is also why I prefer this dual nozzle gutter nozzle head, because it does hook onto the gutter. So the majority of the weight right now is just being hooked onto that gutter, and I'm just basically working back and forth like you saw earlier in between the gutter straps. So like I said, this is where I think, spending the extra money on that good pole extension. I think you can go cheap on most of the other pieces that I have listed. But if you have a roof that's, about the height of mine or higher, or maybe a little bit lower, I think having that good extension pole, is a good idea. And like I said, I have multiple other uses that I have for that pole too, so I really didn't mind spending the money, since I do have probably about 3 or 4 other things that I use that pole for. Now I'm just going to keep doing the same thing basically that I did on the lower roof. And like I was saying, I don't have it on camera. Unfortunately, my phone battery died and I didn't realize it. But after doing the pressure washing part of this, where I just worked myself back and forth like I did on the lower roof, the next thing that I did was I took the hose off the pressure washer and then just put a regular garden spray hose on. And I have basically just enough spray power that I can get up to that roof and that gutter on the top. Like I said earlier, from there I'm basically spraying onto my roof, getting water in that gutter, and I'm listening to make sure that I have that water hitting that gutter. And then I'm going over to my downspouts and I'm making sure that I can hear flow in there, and wherever I can see that water running, I'm just continuously checking it and looking for all the little debris to eventually skim out. And you got to do it a few times to really get it good, unless you have like a heavy rain coming or something like that soon. But you want to make sure you blow out all those little things. What I've done in the past, which I didn't do today, probably not going to do today, I do have a GoPro. I'll put it on that pole. That's probably another use of that pole I'm not thinking of, when I listed that before. But I'll run the GoPro back and forth and check the gutter out. My main thing is I just really, if I can, I want to avoid having to get on a ladder to get up to that top roof. It's a high peak. It may not look like it in the video, but it's also a pretty steep roof. I've been up there, but I'll be honest, I'm not 100% comfortable on that roof. The lower roofs are fine to me, but that's why I'm doing all this. Okay, so right now I'm at the end, and as you can see, I'm twisting that nozzle down one of my downspouts, spraying that from a few different angles, making sure I kind of really force everything down through. And I've been doing this for about 3 years. I'm sure there's probably, some sticks that have gotten stuck in there, but I've never had an issue with a major clog in those downspouts, as long as I did spray that pressure down, and then also just having that big rush of water and just kind of working at it. I've never had a major block, where I had to bring a downspout down or anything like that. I would imagine if I did have a pretty good block, I also have like a drain pipe snake that I probably could run up and down, and it'd just be another way of avoiding getting on that roof and avoiding having to, tear the downspouts down. So I know some people probably would be concerned about clogging up the downspouts. I think as long as you're thorough and really just wash them out, and probably do this more often. Like this here was basically an entire season's worth of leaves, and you can't see it in the picture, but I have a really big, I'm guessing probably 200-some-year-old sycamore tree that's just massive. And we have a love-hate relationship with the tree. I mean, we love the tree. It's awesome to look at. It shades our house. but it's also one of the messiest trees I've ever dealt with as far as the huge leaves. It loses a ton of little branches and sticks, and right now we're in May. We're towards the end of May right now, but right now it's got like these little flowery seed petal type things that are just everywhere, and that's a lot of what's clogged up in here. Okay, as you can see right now, I'm kind of working this stick that's stuck up in the gutter. It was actually twisted up in there pretty good. It had been up there for a while, I'll admit. So I'm kind of using this thing to chip away at the leaves and the other stuff that's probably holding that in. And then eventually it gets loose enough and I can tell, and I just sort of bump it with the pole and it falls out. Okay, to try to keep this video to a somewhat short length, I'm going to probably edit out the rest of what I have. I have a few more minutes of just kind of working this downspout, or this gutter, sorry. And then, like I said, my battery did die for the final parts, which was, again, so after pressure washing, I then took the hose off, just used a regular garden nozzle hose, and I started with just spraying up onto the roof so that the water flowed into the gutter, and I got a good wave of it coming down the downspout. And like I said, I was listening to the gutter, listening to the downspout, and just watching for that water to finally basically just flow freely and be free of debris. Okay, the next thing I did, which I showed a little bit of with the low pressure nozzle, was I used my garden nozzle and I basically just sprayed off any of the debris on the sides of the gutter, on the siding, stuff like that. You do not want to use high pressure on your siding of your house. That's how you destroy your siding and also pop it off. So you want to use low pressure for that. And basically I started with the top roof and then worked my way down to my bottom roofs and then my deck and sidewalk and all that stuff. So again, kind of once you've done this a few times, you pick up on little ways of not doing rework, but just sort of start at the top, work your way down. It is, a pretty messy operation, but it's easy to clean up. I think I had the whole thing cleaned up probably, I don't know, 20 minutes probably from my whole house, working the whole way around it. Hopefully you found this video useful. If you have any questions, just put them in the comment bar. I'll try to get back to you with any answers. And if you thought this video was helpful, let me know. If you want to like and subscribe, it's definitely appreciated. This is a new channel, so just trying to develop useful content and trying to find ways to either save you money or just make processes easier. And this one here was probably more of a safety related process where all in all it might have been cheaper just to get a ladder, get up and do it by hand, but I think a lot of us are the same, and we don't really love getting up on that ladder and cleaning the gutters or getting on the roof to do it. And especially if you have a high roof with a steep pitch, I just don't think it's worth it. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you with future content. Thanks.